If you've coveted an heirloom quilt to pass down through generations but never had anyone to teach you the basics, we've got you covered. We're talking with a pair of expert quilters today on Across the Fence. Hello, Vermont. About a month or so ago, I got an email from one of today's guests asking if we'd promote the Champlain Valley Quilt Guild's 2026 quilt show. My answer was an enthusiastic yes, if they also came on and did a quilting demo, because quilting is on my artistic bucket list. We couldn't be luckier to have such skilled teachers joining us today. Sue McGuire has been a member of the Champlain Valley Quilt Guild for 35 of the Guild's 40 years and first learned how to quilt from her grandmother. Joann Frymire is newer to quilting, but no stranger to sewing, having been a costumer outfitting theater productions throughout the Champlain Valley. She is the chair of the Guild's 2026 quilt show, coming up April 24th through 26th in Essex. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. This is, like I said, this is a bucket list moment for me. I tried to do a little bit of quilting during the pandemic. It did not go particularly well, but it is something that I've always wanted to learn, and I really think the best way to learn this kind of skill is to do it, learn it from people who've got lots of experience. So thank you again for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Let's start with the Quilt Guild. Tell me a little bit about the Guild.
Okay, it's the Champlain Valley Quilt Guild of Vermont, and we've been running more than 40 years. We have speakers, we meet monthly. We have speakers and we have workshops, and we also have a very active community quilt program where we do quilts for Camp Tecumseh, Habitat for Humanity, Ronald McDonald House, and also for the hospital. We make pillowcases for all the children that are there, and we also make pillows for the cardiac patients.
That is so wonderful. Now tell us about the little bit. Now this is where you've been very busy because you are the chair of the show.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the upcoming quilt show.
The quilt show, as you can see, is the dates of the 24th through the 26th. It's at Holy Family Parish Hall. We've been there this is our third show at that venue. We have vendors with a variety of quilting products. We have our own membership group that puts together crafts and stuff, and we sell them there. And we have over 50 quilts to demonstrate. And we have raffle baskets, which are huge and that brings in a lot of money for us so that we can do all the community quilts that Sue talked about.
So this is your opportunity to go look at some beautiful quilts, also maybe get some advice, right? People can,
and it is a judged show.
And it's a judged show.
Yes.
So then people are winning ribbons?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and at the end today, you're going to show me some of these quilts. I'm very excited.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. But first, now, you agreed to do a demo.
We did.
And again, I said pandemic. It didn't go well. I'm going to say that in part that might have been because of my tools. I had a very non-sharp pair of scissors and needle and thread. That was about it. So show me what we're working with, because I think that this is a little better.
Okay. It used to be scissors and thread, and that was it. Luckily, we now have machines, which are wonderful, and a rotary cutter, which came out in the 70s, and it is just a rotary cutter, and so this is the best thing.
Like a pizza cutter, except
like a
that
pizza cutter for
goes
fabric.
Right through. Okay.
And it is the game changer.
Okay.
And the other important things we need are rulers, and there are hundreds and hundreds of different rulers. You've got to start out, most people start out with a rectangular ruler because that's what you use to measure, and you go and you have a mat and pins and needles and thread, and that's
and I was asking you about this when we were having a chance to set up. There's a lot of math involved.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This also might have been one of the things that's challenging me. Because so depending upon what you're working with, and we're going to do a little demo here in a moment, it's all about making certain that the sizes of all of your pieces and your blocks, seam allowance. See, I'm getting flustered already. Okay, but now let's talk about fabrics.
Fabric.
You can use anything?
Well, cotton. 100% cotton is your best bet. I mean, people use anything, and obviously when quilting started, people used whatever they had.
Yeah.
But we have, a variety of different, you can go at the gamut of colors.
Yeah.
We just have plain muslin. Flannel is another. People use flannel. People use flannel on the back to make it a little warmer. But 100% cotton is what we use.
Okay. And in part because then this is something that can be ironed.
It can be ironed and be very crisp.
Very crisp. Which does that help with them with doing your seams?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I do remember this. My mother, again, the home economics teacher, she did teach me a little bit about sewing. So I'm not an entire stranger to this, but it still is not my first language. Okay. What I have always found so beautiful about quilts is then the patterns and the way that you put patterns together. How does that happen?
Well, you have to start first with making some some strips usually.
Okay.
And I'll start with the ruler that's here.
Okay.
Whoops. And
Yeah.
when you cut a strip, you have to know math-wise what you're going to end up with, but you also need a seam allowance on it. So you use the ruler, and the ruler is great because it has the marks on it. Line it right up. It can be very accurate, and then you can sew it. You can cut the strips like this, and they
Okay.
cut very cleanly.
Okay.
But then you put the pieces that you've cut, 'cause these
Okay.
would then be put into blocks, and you'd sew the blocks together.
Okay, so we start by making pieces or
pieces.
strips, and then we sew those together into something to make a
that's
block.
a block, and then
Okay.
you would put blocks together.
Okay, and so then when we're talking about patterns, so now this, I do know that this is called flying geese.
Very good.
Very good.
There we go. And so this is made out of lots of different shapes because we have different materials here,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So triangles sewn to other triangles in order to that, and then this is a block.
Well, we would consider
is a
this a
block.
block.
The
These
whole
are
thing is a
all,
block.
These are all components of the block.
Okay, so you put all of the components together of a block until you get a big, beautiful pattern. Okay, and then what do we do?
Then we have a quilt top, and that's the joke about quilters is we take perfectly good fabric, cut it up, and then put it back together again. But this is just a quilt top. There's nothing, just very thin quilt top.
Okay, so this is what it look. Oh, look at that. Okay, I actually kind of like the way how that looks from the back.
and you
Then
can
you
see
can
the
see all the
seams.
work.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then you have this,
This,
all
which is
sewn
just
together.
one thing. This is the quilt top.
Is this then would be an example of a sample quilt? Is that the
No,
style?
this is not a sample. This is I would call this a scrap quilt.
A scrap quilt,
Because
right,
everything is different.
Yeah. Okay. So we take this, and then what do we do with it?
Then we have to make it into a quilt sandwich.
Okay.
And a quilt sandwich is taking the top, pretend this is a whole quilt, so this is what the top would be, and then we put it batting on the inside, and then we have a backing to it, and we put them all together. Now there's different kinds of battings. I particularly like a combination of a polyester and cotton, but there are plain cottons and there's plain polyester. People use wool, they use silk, there's all
Bamboo.
kinds of things. That's right, there's lots of things to use. So then we make it into a quilt sandwich, and then from the quilt sandwich, then to make it a quilt, you have to sew through it all. So when you
That's
sew
when it
through
actually
all,
becomes a quilt. Okay, so
That's
the
what makes a
quilting
quilt.
comes from the name of how all of
At the
those
end,
various
yes.
layers are
go
sewn
together.
together.
And
Okay.
you can simply quilt it with straight line stitching and machine quilting, or you can do more elaborate quilting like this. But another way of making blocks that isn't this way is to do applique before we
right.
get into the quilting.
This is great. Now this is a different style. So this is something where instead of having done the blocks, how do you do this?
They used pieces and made this whole figure, and then they sewed it on the orange fabric. And you can do applique by hand, which a lot of people do applique by hand. That is one thing. This is machine applique, and it just kind of adds it on, and then it gets quilted.
And so now we were talking about quilting, and you mentioned machine quilting, but
Yes.
I know that you are actually a hand quilter.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So what does that entail?
It just the same thing, but you do it by hand. And this is the back of a quilt, which you probably can't really see very well, but.
And so all
just
of
go
this
through.
stitching. Okay, so this is you've made the quilt sandwich. You have everything together. How large of pieces have you worked with?
Queen size.
Queen size.
Yes.
So it's just all pinned together.
It's actually basted together. It's
Basted
sewn
together.
or pinned, depending
Okay.
on how you want to do it.
Okay.
So then you just sew it. You just sit in your chair with your hoop, and you have a hoop, and
you hoop. Okay, so then now that sounds like embroidery hoop. So this is in order
Yeah,
to keep
it's
it flat
bigger usually.
and to stretch it out so that then you're straight. Okay. And how long will it take you to do something like if you were like a bed-size quilt?
a couple months, but I don't do it
months.
constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is pretty impressive.
And then this is the machine.
And
But
then
you're a machine
some people
quilter.
get, I'm a machine quilter.
Okay.
And like I say, you can do it very straight stitch kinds of things. And by the way, you were talking about a sampler.
Yes.
This would be considered a sampler because each block is different.
Okay.
So that.
And then there are different names. I mentioned flying geese, and so there are different names for
Oh
each
yes,
of the
they
different
have.
types
and
of block patterns.
Give us a test.
Okay.
But like this is a basket quilt, for example, and there's a lot of stars.
A lot of different stars.
Hole in the barn door. Help me, Joann. House quilt, obviously, or schoolhouse.
Another basket.
This is a friendship star. So there's all kinds of different blocks, and there's old names for them, and then there's always new ones that people are inventing.
And so then the last steps, I'd imagine, are kind of finishing the edges.
That's right. This
Okay.
is a binding
This is
that
a
we would
binding.
put on, and that just finishes it so there's no raw edges showing anywhere.
And now at the Guild, do people bring their quilts with them to sit and quilt together? Do you talk about quilting? Like, what is a Guild meeting like?
Mostly in a meeting, we have speakers and learn new things
And
from
learn new
speakers
techniques.
or see what they've done in the past, and it inspires us to do some more work. And then we'll have the same teacher sometimes give us a workshop on another day where we learn from them. But we do have group meets that quilt together, but it's not the whole group, it's smaller groups that would quilt together.
Fascinating. Well, you brought a whole bunch of quilts with you,
Yep.
and some of these also too. Now, there's quilts that are going to be shown at the quilt show. I think we
Yes.
even have a couple of images
those would be good
of
to
some
show.
of the quilts.
Yeah,
Tell us about these.
These are from Hope Johnson. She is our featured artist in our quilt show this year. We always have a featured artist, so they'll have a whole room with their quilts. She does some amazing things, a lot of it with bees.
So beautiful. Look at that. So you've got that honeycomb
And then
pattern.
she does
Okay.
these, which are pictorial quilts. She does amazing things.
That is remarkable.
People have seen pictures of her quilts that have a lot of people, and they can pick out the people that are in the
Wow.
quilt, which is pretty amazing.
So she's a real textile artist.
Yes, she
That's
definitely
gorgeous.
is.
Show me some of these other quilts that we've got here,
Okay.
because these are also a nice
Yeah.
way to see
Yeah,
what
this
the
one
different-
will be in the
what's
show.
possible. This one's in the show. Okay.
This is Puffins.
Who made this one?
Nancy Suarez made
is
this
beautiful.
one.
Very
And these are all
cute.
pieced. They're not applique. This is all pieced.
This is all pieced. Okay, so that means that each of these then I can see is a block, right?
Yeah, this is
And
a
then
block.
That's the block. Okay.
But the
And
components.
The
you were talking
components.
about
These are all
Okay,
the components of the block.
Oh, wow, that is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, well, what's your final pitch then about why people should come to the quilt show?
See beautiful quilts, get inspired. It's a form of art. It is definitely, these women are artists, and they put a lot of time and effort into their quilts. And you'll see such a wide variety. Like
Yeah.
there's a spider web for
Yeah.
you and things
Right.
like that. And
So an opportunity to come, to learn a little bit, to see vendors, to
vendors,
see some beautiful
yeah, and
examples
just
of
be
quilting.
with people of like-minded people. That
Yep.
we all love to quilt, and
Yep.
we have a scavenger hunt, so kids love it.
Yeah, and I know that you wanted to make sure that people know that quilting is not just something that grandmothers do, right? That
For
this is
sure.
this is a current art form,
No,
right?
and it's very healthy.
Yes.
There's been a lot of studies that say that
Fantastic.
those kind of things are very healthy for us.
Right.
So
Well, if you're inspired, don't forget to mark your calendars for the Champlain Valley Quilt Guild's 2026 Quilt Show coming up April 24th through 26th. More information is available on the website right there on your screen. Joann and Sue, thank you so much for joining me today.
thank you for having
It has
us.
been an absolute pleasure. And as always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.